Alright, I have some new toys and let's get it off a decent start. Beer. I've bought some jumbo VU meters from China this time. A couple of different changes here. First of all, these are 42mm. They're about twice the price. They come with the board. Yeah. All plastic housing. Little less stylish on the housing. Same general concept. We come round to the back. The inner terminals are the actual meter. These ones are for the backlight. And apparently, they've been sitting around the warehouse since 2001. They're still readily available, and yeah, I'm excited about these because they're nice big dials, and I'm gonna get to do something I haven't really got to do yet, which is I want a big dashboard. So, big meters. I want amps drawn by the general setup, and I want, I don't know, as many fun gauges as I can think of, that add into that. Just think it'll be entertaining. Sort of more my whole deal. The meters themselves, yep, they're big and they're pretty, but they're not, they're not a major change in how they work or anything like that. What we do get, as I carefully avoid my big dangly holder, we get some delicious bits of hardware. We actually get pre-terminated cables. So on this end, we got a handy plug. You will have to solder the little nutsert danglers. I haven't thought of a name for them yet. I'm sure there's already a name, but good length to them. What's that? I'd say it's a couple of feet. The meters are the exciting bit, but the board is the weird bit because it's not sensible and normal. For a start, this board does AC or DC, 12 volts it says. It has some changes. Just going to get a pointing device. Because I have a mic dangling in front of me, trying to actually bother with the audio, and the camera has a giant gooseneck stretched across the desk. We plug in here, and I will come back around to this and explain how to identify which ones are which as far as the meter is concerned. Let's start with the inputs. Not 8 ohms. That suggests that this will do power input. You can monitor your speaker power as well as line input. That'll be adjusted by these. Out of the box, you're going to have to calibrate these. This is a bit of a nicer board than most of the ones I've seen. We actually have isolation transformers. Then most of the circuitry is the same. But over here we have a bit of a weird touch. I think this is the general layout for an AC board. Or would it be DC? It's got me a bit... Yeah, I'm a little mixed up on this one as to whether or not it was originally AC or DC. I'm guessing AC, but you can see here we've omitted some components and replaced them with a bridge rectifier. So it doesn't really matter where we put anything. But the ground lead for the rectifier, the way it's set up and soldered into this particular board, I wouldn't be surprised if that changes board to board, is that V1 is ground, V2 is positive. Coming around, all of this is pretty familiar, but over here we gotta work out what's what. So I already know from looking at this is V plus and V minus are the backlight, but we can follow those traces over to here. Over to here. Ooh, we got a bit of weeble wobble there. These are our output resistors for the backlight. Now they're way smaller than the ones I've seen, so I don't know what we're going to get in terms of backlight. I'm assuming it's still a filament one. That's going to be part of the mystery. But basically, if you have straight power output and you can follow these traces back to a couple of like ballast resistors, then you can figure out what's what if you're looking at a similar but perhaps not exactly the same board. Plus and minus, we can see go through our audio path. If we look at it from this side, you can see there we go with the weeble wobbles again. They go on in here. And generally on most of these boards you'll see a resistor bridge that will give you some idea whenever you run through the audio path. It's really obvious on this one because we have isolation transformers, but on ones that we don't, you will see a discrete path back to here, back to these 4 terminals. Overall, it's a bit of a change. It's a bit weird because this board has been pluged together. It's not being set up the way it was, and it is different from the other BU meter boards I've seen. Looking forward to trying it out, but I guess the main key is, as always, how the hell do you wire it? So, audio. If you're using this as a line level type deal, you're going to be bridging this one and this one. Now, the way to do that is to do it all at the end of the case if you want an in and out, or as close to your other components as possible, and take a feed off of this, because this basically just comes in and goes back out. And I did see in my previous video about BU meters, there was definitely issues around the way I wired it that I came back and fixed, and still had the odd issue with, because let's face it, bridging your RCA terminals or whatever you plan to use at the case and taking a wire off it that goes to these makes way more sense. That'll be your positive lines for line output. Same for speaker output. Now that's much simpler. Basically this and this, you know, your speakers go in and out in the same fashion, and you're probably best to do the same thing, but don't bridge the ground in that case. This appears to be ground. I wouldn't trust it to be ground on all of them. I would investigate. You'll see there are markings on top of this bridge rectifier, and I would just check that they're actually round the right way, because the thing about a bridge rectifier is it'll all end up going in the same direction, but if it's in a different orientation, we could see different results for DC where it'll just act like it has no power because the diode arrangement's around the wrong way as far as it is to DC. I think just looking at how it's put into this board, because it's a bit of a weird one. Over here, these are your backlights. Now your backlights, this is nice in the sense that it corresponds to our, danger, don't knock the camera over. You can see you have your outside terminals. Those are your backlight, and inside terminals are the actual meter element. Now, if you were to turn this on after setting it up and everything, without having got it round the right way, there is the potential that you murder the coil in the meter before you realize what you've done, because you'll peg it out immediately, but that teeny little moving coil just isn't set up to take a lot of current. Overall though, the meters are nice. They do work on other kinds of boards if you see them separately. The backlights I didn't test on my other board because the other board runs the normal lights terribly out of the box. You'll see in the comments ways to avoid that. But I'm looking forward to getting the hole saws out and setting this up. I'm waiting on I think I want a 100 meter scaled down by 10. You know, misusing it, but I was thinking it'll be more fun looking that way. There's not a lot of point in having the actual AC voltage showing. It's 240 here. I think the last I looked at was about 242. But it might be there for the sake of being there. Overall, fun kit. Talking about 40 odd quid. But you get the whole thing. You only need power it. Now, if you're thinking about using this inside a computer, this kit's nice in the sense that you get big dials. You know, if you're looking for some sort of computer type deal, you run off 12 volts, nice and easy to find in one of them. And I'm not sure how it would fare in it'd be very niche automotive applications, but it should be fine. And as a standalone hi-fi unit, you know, world should be your oyster. The AC input, I would guess, with this board is going to work off of a 10 volt AC as well, if you have an amplifier that's outputting something like that as well. I know some of them do allow that. As far as grounding goes, that's going to be a bit of a crapshoot depending on how this fits into the rest of your sort of setup. Basically, you're going to end up with either option. If you're using, you know, like a wall wart transformer, you're going to have that. You're going to have the ground floated here. Shouldn't affect it too much. But yeah, that's about the height of the kit. You know, we get nice fittings though. Look at that. They actually bothered with brass washers. Got all our little fittings. You will see there's a small one, or there's a big one, a big one, and a small one as far as the wires go, which is why you need to identify these first so we can see backlight, actual meter, and there is a way around over here, so it's this way around. So that is positive, negative, positive, negative. That's about the height for an overview of this. I will follow this up with build and test, but to be honest, I don't see many surprises from this in terms of how it's set up. I just think it's interesting that they chose to stab a rectifier in and make this board something else. Overall, the audio setup for the board is kind of nicer. Having isolation transformers is good. How it fares in the real world, we'll see. Depending on what you want, I think this at 30-40 quid is better than the small meters, but harder to find. I'll try and link to an eBay listing that has them, at least in the UK. But I would give them a stab. Overall, you know, they're much easier to sort of see, and if you are looking for seeing the meters dance, these have that. And obviously the calibration should be about the same out of these. Hopefully it's easy enough. It should actually be easier to calibrate these a little more finely if you are looking for specific level readings, just on the basis that you have more resolution on the meter. I mean visual resolution. You should be able to visually calibrate them better than you may be able to. Also, this meter, you see if you give it a tap, that swing, this has more mass, so you need to calibrate more slowly, but at the same time it will be a little less affected by minor changes. At least that's been my experience of it. And this board could obviously change things if it's been fiddled with to deal with that. But yeah, there's your overview of the jumbo VU meters. I look very much forward to getting these into something because I moved house and didn't get a chance to get this done before I moved house. So I'm quite excited about it. Got a lot of projects in the back burner at the minute. And on top of that, I'm doing a show now. I'm doing a show on Infinity Cast called A Cinema Nasty. Along with, work, all the other fun things. We'll see. There is plenty here to be taken to bits and plenty here to make.